but you can't see actually Johnny Mac. We got some internet issues this morning, but we are prevailing, and we will be here for you to give you a rundown. J Mac, how you doing on this football Friday, my friend? It's Friday the 13th, and apparently it came for your internet bright and early.
Yeah, man, it's actually been a good week, I think. For last week was a bad week for technical problems. This week, I thought we made it through, and here we are on Friday. Cecily Tynan, the great 6ABC meteorologist, she tweeted something out for the local people in Philadelphia area. So the snowpack on the ground, it's the longest it's stuck around since 1961. Since 1961. I don't know. I think that's the issue that's what's going on with these internet outages. But hopefully it's going to turn soon because it's going to be 40s and 50s for the next 7-8 days. So hopefully some of this garbage will get out of here. And for the snow people, yeah, go what yourself, because this shit is a pain in the ass.
It is. I mean, it has become a royal pain in the ass, especially when it sticks around for the longest time since 1960. John, are we getting any heat? Any idea? Not heat, but are we getting any temperatures warm enough to melt this crap?
Yeah, that's what today is supposed to be like 37-ish locally, and then the next 7 or 8 days it's going to be in the 40s or 50s.
Okay,
so it probably won't get it won't get rid of all of it, but it'll get rid of quite a bit at least. Yeah, but Xfinity, I can't say the term, so we'll say it rhymes with Schmexfinity. Yeah, get your house in order.
Yeah, I don't know, Johnny Mac. We're all beholden to the internets in the year 2026, and I assume that will continue. But we are here live with you, everybody. Good to see everybody. Hope everybody had a good week and a good Friday here. We thank you for listening to Birds 365. We do have some great topics to talk about today. We will run as long as Johnny Mac's phone will hold. All right, which it is a big task for the phones to stay on streaming. So. We will run as long as we can here on Birds 365. Johnny Mac, a couple things to talk about in Eagle Land, and a lot of them are, let's just say, they're off-season conversations, which is a good thing. But I want to make sure that we get our house in order. Any update, John, that's real, that's a report that is worthy of giving the people today on a Football Friday before we get into some of the, I don't know if you want to call it rage bait or whatever you want to call it, but it's there's some stuff out there that we're going to hit, but I'm more looking for what's the latest in Eagle Land with the coaching staff, and the next step here in the offseason.
Yeah, the coaching staff is pretty much set, except for quarterbacks, which hasn't been officially labeled. Now, the perception is, and I actually, because we were talking about yesterday, I actually checked into it with from Las Vegas side. They actually removed Greg Olson from their website, which is an indication that they have moved on from him. So, that throws another curveball into the mix because, the Eagles wanted to interview him. I don't know if they actually did. They interviewed the kid from Arizona who's like 30 years old. And, anytime you start looking for people outside the organization, when you have a quarterback's coach that is under contract like Scott Lefler and you're holding on to him, it's an indication, well, you're trying to get somebody you think might be a better fit. And I focused in on Olson because he used to coach Sean Mannion in Seattle as a position coach. But evidently he's available. So you don't have to you don't have to wait for Las Vegas. So that even throws, as I said, another curveball into it because it's like, well, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? Either you want the guy, you don't want the guy, or you want to keep Lefler, or you don't want to keep Lefler. So a little bit strange, but right now, I mean, Scott Lefler's still the quarterback's coach. The longer it went, that's what I said before they made it kind of official. It's still not official, but behind the scenes, we're able to get confirmation that Jamal Singleton and Aaron Moorhead will be back. I mentioned the longer it goes, the better it is for guys like that. And the same would apply for Scott Lefler. The only difference was they weren't actively interviewing running backs coaches or potential wide receivers coaches. Here they were interviewing potential quarterbacks coaches. So that's the lone open-ended discussion with the coaching staff. The rest of it is basically done. You'll have some promotions, lower level guys. You might even have an addition. Tyler Yelk, as I mentioned, is a lower level defensive assistant. He's leaving, so they'll have to replace him. But the major ones that fans would pay attention to in the position groups, the only one with any sort of still uncertainty around it is the quarterback position. And by the way, I don't know, how does the phone come across? Because my wife is home today, and she's talking. Can anybody hear that?
No, you're good, John. I just hear you loud and clear, and I do not hear your wife, so you don't have to worry about her
All
leaking
right,
anything
because
into the
I wanted to figure something out that maybe go somewhere else. But from the standpoint of that, as I said, now safeties coach as well, because Joe Casper was the safeties coach. Technically, they don't have a safeties coach now, as he got promoted to replace Christian Parker. You know, a lot of teams don't have split it up like the Eagles. They might not split it up. They might split it up, but again, lower level discussions more than um, the high profile stuff, which is done and in the rearview mirror.
John, good stuff. We'll see what ends up happening with this. John, how important is the quarterback position? I know we're all harping on it just because it's the last domino to fall, but how important is it? I mean, there's been as much change at that position as there has the offensive coordinator, and I already know how you personally feel about this, but everybody, puts all when it's bad, it's all on the offensive coordinator and the inconsistency. When they win, Kellen Moore's a genius. Whatever, you know how it goes. How important is the quarterback coach?
Well, I think it's important because that's the guy who works with Jalen Hurts on a day-to-day basis when it comes to technique and fundamentals and footwork and things like that. I mean, the offense, obviously Sean Mannion will be steering the ship, and he's a former quarterback himself, so he'll be stuck to the hip as much as he can be with Jalen Hurts moving forward this season. But you do need somebody to do the day-to-day grind work in practice, and that to me is more important this year than maybe typically, because you're at least projecting to do a lot of different things, and a lot of that, when you talk about the presumptions of a Shanahan McVay like scheme, is a lot more under center, a lot more play action, and that requires different footwork than Jalen Hurts has been doing for much of his career. So I do think it's a little more important this year. And that's why I thought, Olson made a lot of sense, because he's obviously got a ton of experience in what Sean Mannion wants to do, and taught Sean Mannion how to do it himself. And obviously to the level where Sean wanted to talk to him about the job. So I do think it's slightly more important this year, just because of the projected technique changes at the position.
Yep, we're going to see how that plays out. And so Olson is that the one name right now, John? Did you mention any other names that we know, or it's kind of
I forget his name. He's like 30 years old. I'll look it up if I can find it. Connor Singler is the other guy they actually did interview. And he was a passing game specialist. I don't have the exact title in front of me, in Arizona. Very young guy, certainly different than Olson, who's like 62 and has been around, and I think 30% of the league coaching at some point in his career. Used to be a quarterback himself at Wisconsin, and then Wisconsin Oshkosh, and basically his only job has been with Arizona with Jonathan Gannon. So he started out in quality control, then he was assistant quarterbacks coach, then he was passing game specialist. So they did talk to him about the job. Now, again, that would fit into the young where they're going with Sean at 33 and Josh Grizzard at 35 and even Chris Cooper at whatever he is, 41, 42, somewhere in that range. But um, that would fit more in that sort of new breed mode. But, that was a while ago and haven't heard anything about them. So I don't think they're going to head in that direction, but that's just speculation.
John, any thought on who you think would fit with Jalen Hurts more? I mean, Jalen is a very, he's got a style, he's got a personality. Some refer to him as like an old soul, which I think is an accurate description of him. And you've seen him with quarterback coaches that are, older and kind of, very experienced veteran guys like Nussmeier, guys who've been around for a long time. And you've also seen him with younger quarterback coaches. Anything that you've seen in your experience or interaction or all the reporting that you've done, all the events that you've attended, the games, the practices, all those things, anything that you can see that would insinuate Jalen responds better to one style or another, or one, I don't want to say age or another, because it's not all about that, one experience level or another?
Yeah, I mean, all I've heard about Jalen Hurts is he's very coachable. He wants to be coached. That's been a consistent theme throughout, and I think that's because he's a, Nick talks about that a lot. He's a coach's kid, like Nick is. I think that. So I think they have that in common, and they want to be coached hard, and they want to be coached. So I don't think that part. In fact, you've talked about the changes. We always talk about the changes at offensive coordinator. There's been just as many changes at quarterbacks coach because of the same reasons. The year they failed, Alex Tanney got blown out, and now if they change again, same thing will happen. And you have only guys for 1 year. Doug Nussmeier, obviously, because they were successful, and Kellen and him are very tight, and he took him to be the offensive coordinator in New Orleans. So it's been a year-to-year process. But I've never, you think about guys like Nussmeier and Lefler who are older, as opposed to Alex Tanney, who's younger. You never really heard anything about Jalen likes this guy because of experience. Yeah, there was that little clip from Hard Knocks where, I don't know, he said something that people took viral during a quarterback meeting with Lefler. And I can't even understand what he said, so I didn't think much of it, other than that's his personality. But I think he's the type of guy, because he is a coach's son, that likes to be coached hard, and I think that's a good thing. To me, it's more about the other side and who's more capable of teaching him the technique and getting him on up to speed as quickly as possible. If you really want to do more drop back traditional passing, who's the guy who can unlock that and get him to the highest degree? And that, to me, is really all it would be about.
We'll see what ends up happening with that, John. Good response there. Appreciate everybody being here this morning. All right, that's the latest on where the Eagles are in the offseason. It is Friday, February 13th, so we're moving right along. John, what is next here? We got the combines coming up. We got a bunch of stuff coming up here right in the calendar. The NFL has that short little week and a half, of dead time, which isn't really dead time after the Super Bowl, and then they get right back into it for getting ready for the draft and things of that nature. What's next for this offseason?
Yeah, the combine is next, and this is not a dead time because everybody's ramping up. I mean, behind the scenes, it's not a dead time. Everybody's ramping up and shifting from sort of coaching changes to free agency and then the draft. And as I said with the combine, I think on the surface, it's more about the draft because you're looking, and NFL Network will have the underwear Olympics and you're looking at the prospects, but really it's more about free agency because it's like a league convention in Indianapolis where all the agents and personnel executives get together at the various restaurants and bars around town. And that's where the foundation is laid for these deals that are going to be made that people are starting to talk about. And I think you're going to bring one of them up, and
Yeah,
you
we're
started
going
to
there.
talk about it yesterday, which has been, if you listen to Birds 365, hey, I can't force you, but if you listen, all the A.J. Brown stuff is coming from outside the building, not necessarily inside the building. The Eagles are very tight-lipped with that kind of stuff. So, but everybody in the league thinks they're moving A.J. Brown.
Get ready, everybody. The rumor mill is about to pick up, as John's been telling you, where they talk about all these potential deals.